You want a big fat raise this year? Well, you're not going to get a big fat raise just by asking for it. You have to bring the receipts. I remember one time I was hosting this radio show where Jay Sean was my guest. He's the international singer who's given Billboard chart-topping hits like Ride It and Down, Down, Down. Big in the 2000s. Now, he was flying down from UK all the way to India where I was at that time. And when he came to my studio, he was dog-tired, jet-lagged, probably very hungry. And he's had a long press day and I was his last stop. So he barely had any energy left for me. I, on the other hand, I'd spent the whole day preparing a big intro for him. I'd taken his songs, created parodies about him on it. And that's the first thing I played when I started to introduce him on the show. I guess his British humor kicked in and he started laughing, he cracked up and we had a great interview, but that's not the end of the story. It's what happened after the interview that's the story. After the interview, he went straight to my boss, the station director, and told him, "Give this girl a raise." His words, not mine. Now, in reality, while we don't have a personal Jay Sean nudging our bosses to give us a raise every time, we have to create our own give that girl a raise situation, where people will be forced to think about giving you a raise. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 ways you can convince your management to give you a big fat paycheck raise. By the way, my name is Rai. I'm a media professional who helps other professionals in their career growth with better, more strategic communication skills. Join the tribe, subscribe to this channel, and let's get going. So what are some things you can do leading up to the appraisal? Number 1, match your boss's working style. Now, I'm using a proverbial he, but your boss could be anyone, right? If he's an early riser, catch him early. If he's a night owl, catch him late. If he likes things on emails, document everything. If he hates emails, catch him on his smoke break. In other words, what I'm trying to say is increase your visibility. Think about it. Does your working style match with your boss's working style? Let me know in the comments. We always think that we will get a raise if we impress our boss more, and as a result of which, we keep waiting for those compliments from our bosses. But you can do quite the opposite. You can start praising your boss instead. Every time he comes up or she comes up with a good idea, say, "Wow, I didn't think about that." Or, "Wow, that would really do this for us." And even if you come up with an idea, you can preface that by saying, "You know, the other day you was talking about this and that made me realize that we could do this." This not only makes the other person feel like he's getting a bit of the credit, but it also shows that your vision is on the same lines, which is a fact. End of the year, when you're talking to your boss about your performance review, one of the things that happens to us is that we're caught off guard. We don't remember what we've done. We don't know how to push back. We don't know how to negotiate or demand more because we draw a blank. Because honestly, there's so many things you do through the year. How much can you talk about in an appraisal or a performance review or even a general casual chat up with your boss? So you need to cherry pick and focus on the extras, where you went above and beyond. Those are the areas you need to think about. And it's even better if you know how to translate them into numbers. Like, I spent 20% more hours doing extra work. Or I spend so much amount of my own personal money in order to meet the company goals. Or this is the amount of time and effort I save the company. Here's the amount of money I save the company. So if you can convert your contribution into numbers, you're bringing your A game. One of the mistakes we often make while getting into a performance review is that we are not fully prepared. We're somewhat prepared to talk about what we've done, but we're actually not prepared to talk about the numbers. So when you get that paper with so many numbers and columns and statements and conditions and terms, we are just confused. We don't know, is this a good increment? Is this a bad? It's only when we get home and look at the numbers properly, then we realize, that wasn't as good as I thought. How can you avoid this situation? Before you get into the performance review, calculate your tax slabs. Memorize the numbers. What if you get a 5% increment? What does the number look like? What if you get a 2% increment? What does the number look like? What if you get a 10%? What do the numbers look like? Basically, know your numbers before you get into that room. The other thing you need to be mindful of is the inflation rate. So if you get a 2% increment, but the inflation is 4%, then you're really not getting an increment. It is a demotion. And sometimes You might get a 5% raise and that might increase your tax slab by 10%. Once again, that's not an increment. So knowing your numbers is so important and something we totally overlook while getting into a performance review, which is why we cannot negotiate properly. Now, every country has a different kind of tax slabs. I don't know where you're watching me from. You can let me know in the comments. If you're liking the content so far, do give it a like and subscribe. And here's my final point. When you're heading for a performance review and you're really hoping for a big raise, yes, the hard work is important, the visibility is important, having a good relationship with your boss is important, knowing how to negotiate is important. But in the many years that I've done performance reviews, I've seen so many people walk into the room looking at their increment papers and their face totally falling. They're dissatisfied, they're unhappy, and they just gulp and they move out. They actually don't push back. They actually don't ask why. So one of the things you need to do at performance reviews after you get those papers is actually ask the question why. There are a couple of things you can ask here. Number one, you can ask for a little more. Like I remember one year, one guy came and said, I like what I've got, but I really want just 1 lakh more. Just 1 lakh more, that's all I want. And the management actually agreed. But here's the other thing you need to ask. If you've gotten 5% and you wanted 20%, then you need to ask them, what could I have done to make that 5% into a 20%? Or at least 5% more. This will give you a good idea what to do for next year so that your increment is even better the next time. I hope these tips actually helped you. Do like and subscribe because it's only when you like and subscribe that people get to know that this content is worth watching. Let me know what you want me to talk about next or where you're watching me from. So I hope you subscribe and I can see you in the next video.